In early November, the domestic energy company that I work for, CNX Resources, announced a partnership that we created with the state of Pennsylvania under the leadership of Governor Shapiro. Now, this agreement sets a new, frankly historic, set of standards for how the domestic natural gas industry operates and interacts with local and regional stakeholders in places like Western Pennsylvania, all of Pennsylvania, and frankly within all of Appalachia. We call it radical transparency. Now imagine that. You're Keller inside the lines and definitely not radical host, being part of something radical. Besides being historic, this partnership and agreement is going to move the state of the art forward to a higher and better place when it comes to how responsible manufacturing of domestic energy and natural gas is performed. And this isn't going to be easy, and it's going to be challenging, yet it will improve what we do, and it will benefit many stakeholders like residents and workers and investors and communities substantially. So let's dive deep into what radical transparency is, what it means, how it works, and how we got there. If we start our connections of this journey back to the beginning, much of the impetus for radical transparency, it actually started with a problem, a very annoying one and a serious one for a team like the one at CNX Resources, who prides itself on the values of ownership and excellence and responsibility, those being our core values, and an issue that needed to be taken seriously for a public company in the domestic energy space, such as CNX. Domestic energy companies, they operate under a duty and responsibility to report a tremendous volume of data to regulators. Could be emissions, could be for permits, labor, financial, all those different arenas. But in the area of emissions reporting, it is a particularly voluminous effort. Processes need to be constructed to manage all that reporting, spanning from the field of operations to the final report that's sent to the state or federal regulatory body. And like all processes that involve human interaction and communication and decision-making, disconnects can occur and propagate over time, especially if we're talking high-volume efforts, like that being the case with emissions reporting in the energy space. And that very problem popped up for us several years ago. We had a glitch in our reporting processes that failed to record a maintenance event on our pipelines that was performed regularly from making its way into being logged into our state emissions reports. And the regulatory bodies wanted us to check a year's worth of data for the miss. We decided to audit 4 years back to be complete. And lo and behold, much to our distress, we missed 2,300 of these maintenance events in the 4-year period. Now that's a big number by itself. And we reported the misses, we updated the history, and we corrected all the prior filings. And we also owned up to it publicly with the legal process that ensued in Pennsylvania. It was on us, pure and simple. Now some connections to make to that issue or problem that we had. First, context matters. Now, as I said, 2,300 misses, that ain't good. No disputing that. But a couple of other facts put it in perspective. First, over that 4-year period that applied to the 2,300 misses, we reported over 14 million events and data points. Now that's hard to fathom, but it's true. And when you do the math, 2,300 misses out of 14 million works out to a miss rate, let's call it, of 0.016%. Now, I can't think of many, if any, human influence processes that will perform a function 14 million times and do better than a miss rate of 0.016%. But second, the expectation for us, the standard, so to speak, is 0 misses and a 0% miss rate. 2,300 misses is not 0 misses. Third point, these data points and events, they're reported to calculate emissions from a site and to see if those emissions exceed things like permit levels. Now that's an important topic, of course, because of the conservatism that we applied when calculating the emissions. When we ran through the audit and did all the adjustments to the positives and to the negatives, we found that all those adjustments netted to actually over-reporting implied emissions. So there was not an under-reporting or exceeding of permit levels when it came to emissions, which was great. All this history leads to the second connection that I want to make to this data reporting challenge, which is it led to a new standard for us within CNX Resources when it came to regulatory reporting. So again, 2,300 misses, that's too many, whether it's out of 14 million or 14 billion activities or data points. So we stacked hands as a team to find a better process, a better way to track and report activities that require regulatory reporting. And that led to building and investing in new teams like our regulatory reporting group that we now have within the company. And it led to building and investing in new data and IT platforms to track and report and improve data custody and accuracy. And it led to building and investing in a new standard, a new normal, so to speak, where we applied the same rigor and protections we apply in financial reporting as a public company to regulatory reporting for emissions data. Basically, once we learned of the problem and assessed it and corrected it and looked back, we said we will do better. The problem catalyzed a new level of performance and innovation, so to speak, and we see that often, don't we, in business and competitive endeavors and history, a challenge or problem driving performance to a better level in place. It was the same situation for us. We stumbled upon an issue and a problem that we should have been on top of, and as we were correcting it, we pivoted to using it as an opportunity to make us better. And if you want to embody our values that I mentioned earlier of ownership and excellence and responsibility, that's what you do. It's how we win our way, so to speak. Well, once we built this new regulatory reporting effort, which by the way took 1.5 years in significant investment, we became even more confident in our data, which put us in a position to start thinking about the next thing, how to use that newfound confidence and accuracy to advance the ball yet again. And a couple of things came together that created a window of opportunity. The first we discussed on this podcast 2 months ago, back in episode 124, I believe, when we took a deep dive into the ridiculously flawed and bungled statistical analysis, and I use that term loosely, by the University of Pittsburgh on health issues in natural gas development. So go back and give episode 124 a listen. It's a fascinating sort of topic to see such abuse and ineptitude be applied by academia and then sort of abused by media as they attempt to commandeer policy and impressions. But the bottom line issue there was this is what happens when one deals with the mysterious and the unknown and playing on fears of the dark. It creates stress that leads to poor policy trying to protect against a boogeyman. There is a better way, of course, and that's to transparently report accurate data and real-time data from sites where natural gas activity is occurring. The known basically replaces the unknown. The measurement in the field replaces the professor speculating, one, by the way, who never bothered to even visit a natural gas site during the study that he is opining on. The objective actual replacing the biased inferred. So the opportunity or the need was there, and we had the confidence in our data processes to seize the opportunity and to address the need. But we also needed leadership from state government, and that's where Governor Shapiro came into play. He's looking for a way to balance economic growth and environmental responsibility. And he's not the first politician or governor to say that, but he is the first to see the opportunity that radical transparency would create for doing so. He wants to get things done that are tangible and that lead for Pennsylvania and beyond when it comes to energy and economy and emissions and residents' quality of life. When he heard what radical transparency would entail, he became interested and threw the element of the state regulatory bodies and resources into the effort. That's when radical transparency went from concept within CNX Resources to a reality in Pennsylvania today. And while we're on this topic, this connects to a common remark that many have hit me with. But Governor Shapiro, he's a Democrat. Well, I've said it many times. I'm not into politics, but I am really into policy. And I support or vote not by rigid party affiliation. Because again, if anything, I'm a libertarian. I'm socially and individual rights-wise a classic liberal, and fiscally and government size-wise a classic conservative. No, but instead I vote and support those backing good policy, period. If I see a chance to jump from policy that is based on innuendo, in the unknown, and some rigid out-of-touch ideology, to instead policy that is based on data and the rational and the known, I'm all in. Democrat, Republican, Independent, Conservative, Liberal, anyone I'll work with, except, of course, for a leftist. Well, Governor Shapiro, again, he wanted to lead on this issue to get a sound policy in place when it came to energy development and the environment, and that's what he did when he unveiled our initiative of radical transparency on November 2nd.